This pandemic has impacted the entire world, often in a negative way. It's separated people from their loved ones. People in nursing homes can't visit their grandchildren, their children can't visit them, things like that. Friends and family have been separated. Even I myself have been separated from my fiance for well over a year. But anyways, the point is, people have been separated from loved ones for a long time because of this pandemic. People have struggled financially. One of the ways that the government is trying to help the citizens in America is by giving them stimulus checks. Well, now this can certainly be great because, of course, they're just giving us back our money, right? The government, a lot of times people think, yeah, the government's gonna take care of us. Well, the government isn't self-sufficient, right? The government is paid for by us. We pay them, and in this case, with the stimulus checks, they're actually sending us some of our money back, so that's kind of nice. With the $1,200, that's great. It helped out some people, I'm sure. With the $600, that probably won't help out too many people. But it's something, it would make an impact. And now they're talking about maybe making it $2,000 instead of $600. That will certainly make a bigger impact. I don't know. Again, our government doesn't really have that much money. We're trillions of dollars in debt, but the government is pretty good about spending things they don't have. But anyways, a lot of people, one thing that I've often had against how the government has been using the stimulus checks is that they've been giving it to everyone, right? Even people who don't need it have been receiving checks. And this has kind of caused questions of, why am I receiving this check? I didn't need it. And certainly people, if they're going to get extra money, they probably like that. But the problem is, there's people who would have needed it a lot more. And with this pandemic coming up, or with the stimulus check coming up, if you receive the check and if you need it, then certainly use it, right? If you've been struggling with your bills and you can't afford food and things like that, certainly use the stimulus check to help pay for those things. But if you don't need the money, if this is an unexpected surprise, if you're like, you know what, I'm doing okay financially, I didn't really need this money, then I would encourage you, do what the verse says, do unto others as ye would have them do unto you. Because if you were struggling, right, if you were really struggling financially and you had no money for food or anything like that, and then your friend got $2,000 and he's like, oh, I don't really need this money, I guess I'll go buy a dirt bike or something, right? Wouldn't you have rather he had given some of that money to you, right? He doesn't need to give that money to you, but wouldn't you have rather that he gave some of that to you since he didn't need the money? Well, in much the same way, if we have that attitude, if we would want someone to help us out in our time of need, then we should also be willing to help others out in their time of need. So if this stimulus checks come to you and you don't need the money, then I would encourage you, maybe you could save some of the money, but I would encourage you to look and see where God is working and see where people need help. Pray about it and see where God wants you to give the money. I remember a man named Henry Blackaby, I think it was. He co-authored the book, Experiencing God, and he was talking about one day, I think he was sitting on his porch. I probably will get some of these details wrong, but he was sitting on his porch and someone came to him and said, excuse me, sir, I'm really struggling financially. Do you have any extra money I could have? And he says, well, sorry, sir, I don't have any extra money on me, but if God provides the extra money, I will give it to you. That person leaves and he decides, you know what, I need to trim the bushes out front. So he grabs his electric trimmers and he starts trimming the bushes, and he sees his neighbor's bush and it needs to be trimmed. So he says, oh, I've already got it out. So he starts trimming his neighbor's, and he sees his other neighbors. Like, I might as well just keep going. So he starts trimming the neighborhood. The different bushes out in the neighborhood. And then one of his neighbors comes back and says, hey, did you trim my bush in the front? And he said, yeah, I mean, I already had the electric trimmers out, so I thought I might as well. He said, oh, thank you for that. Here's, I think it was like $50 or something like that. Here's $50. And of course, Mr. Blackaby wasn't expecting the money, right? He was doing it for free. No one hired him to do it. And he looks at this $50 and says, God obviously wants this for someone else. So he took that $50 and he came to that person who had asked him for money earlier and said, God provided the money just like I thought he would. Here's that money. So in much the same way, like Henry Blackaby, when God gives us something that is unexpected, it's not because it's unexpected for him. He has expectations for that. So if you get the stimulus check and you don't need it, God probably expects you to, God probably still has expectations for that check, and he wants you to use it for something specific. So be praying about it. Try and look for people who might need it more than you do. and start praying about, where can I use this best? Is it giving it to a church? Is it giving it to my neighbors? Is it giving it to a missionary? Is it giving it to some random person I see on the side of the street? Where is God wanting you to use this money that He's given you unexpectedly? Again, if you need the money, like you're struggling financially, you might want to use it. But if you don't need the money, try and look at where God wants you to use it. All right, that's all.